Hello and welcome back. Glad to see you so soon. Right now I'm working on a tipster video, or rather trying to recollect my memories by going over DMs with mutuals who I talked about the topic when the lolly drama happened, because it wasn't the first time, as I said in the last video, and I kinda wanted to maybe see if I kinda had arguments which I already forgot about. So this might take a while, and I thought in the meantime I'm gonna do a reaction to a video I saw clips of on Twitter. It's by Enthans Online, someone who is very similar to In Praise of Shadows. And I've seen how much you liked my video on this guy, so I thought, why not doing a round two, but this time with a different opponent. Yeah, here he is critiquing Charlie, also known as Moist Critical. And this is like just him defending modern art. I know that he mentioned PragerU in some points. Please don't make me defend PragerU. Please don't make it. And we will see if he has some good arguments or if it's just this hipster, you just don't get it, bro, argumentation. Let me know in the comments what you think when you think about modern art. The first thing that comes to mind for me was this website where you could play a game. It was a game where you have to guess if this art piece was drawn by an artist or by a monkey. And I wanted to link it, but sadly the website is no longer existing because they stopped paying for it, which is sad. It was very fun. Well, let's get into the video.
I have a confession to make. I like the banana duct tape wall. I'll say it. That's pretty cool art. And then when that guy came up and ate the banana, that's even more art. I used to hate modern art. I used to think it was too simple, too easy. It's not like the Mona Lisa. That's art. I thought it was less valuable than something more realistic because it didn't take as much skill. I used to think that until I actually went to an art museum and I learned about the stuff I was looking at. I learned the contexts, the purpose, the skill behind making these pieces. And it started to make sense. And since then, I feel like I've only benefited from having more of it.
And the issue is that he thinks the only argument is it's not real. I think. I'm not sure, but it sounds like when he talks about skill, that he thinks, yeah, if people want it to be realistic, otherwise they don't get it, and you have to have skill. And the issue is rather people ask for skill, but what they usually mean is effort. They want to really see effort put into this. They want to understand the art piece without having to read a wall of text to understand what the point behind it is. I visited a lot of art galleries with my parents, art museums. I think I was to the Van Gogh Museum twice when I was in Amsterdam. And I was 3 times at the Madame Tussauds, so I not really this super artistic person. One thing I remembered also the best was a Botticelli exhibition in Frankfurt, Germany. So I'm probably not as experienced as him on art if he often goes to see this stuff. But I saw some art in my time. I saw modern art, I saw art from back then, and I gotta say, when it comes to effort, modern art doesn't really hold up. Another thing besides skill is also something that makes art, despite being rather simple, more valuable, is if it gives a look into the past, like historical things. Like, you can look at Stonehenge and say, oh, it's just some stones piled up together, but it's over 5,000 years old and people still are unsure what the purpose behind it was. Like, some say it was maybe the first historical observatorium, others think it was a place for funerals, others think it was for religious rituals, so we don't know to this day, and that's what fascinates us. And I think he doesn't understand it. Or like those portraits you see on the walls from Middle Ages. Yeah, they don't look hyper realistic, but they give us a view on how those people looked like, how they dressed like, what was considered like the beauty standards back then. You don't get it because you don't get it, like you don't get those informations because photos didn't exist at the time. All you had were those paintings, which is quite fascinating. Other things like art of beautiful landscapes. Something, God, it's boring, it's just landscapes. But then they forget that it's sometimes something that has a calming, harmonic effect on some people. Some people love it, some people hate it. So let's see what his opinions are.
An open-minded perspective about art.
Wow. I guess she was having a bad day that day.
Yeah, modern art can be weird and frustrating and confusing, but rather than embracing and trying to understand those feelings and why you feel them, so many people
But I
choose to let
make
that
it
frustration
a bit
trick them into
louder.
thinking the art is at fault. That's not true. It's like a defense mechanism for nuance. Of course, there's a political component, right? All art is inherently political, either in its influences, messages, or implications. 101, guys, this is baby stuff. Art critique is really just opinion, but a lot of people let right-wing propaganda cloud their judgment of modern art, whether they realize it or not. All because it helps them feel better in not wanting to engage with it. In an ideal conservative world, art is interpreted for people through a YouTube video full of lying, misinformation, emotional manipulation, false comparisons, but this happens every day. PragerU has made at least a dozen videos fooling your old grandpa about modern art. All of them are completely nonsense and wrong, but why is it that I hear the same boring, shallow, fragile talking points from people who should be way more in touch with culture? Listen, yeah, I know his face is in the thumbnail, and yeah, this video is kind of about Charlie. But listen, it's not personal. I'm trying to compare content that realistically should have nothing in common. Fascist propaganda and gamer streamer should not be saying the same things. The difference is PragerU's content.
It's okay to have sometimes the same opinion as fascists. I don't know if they're fascists. Sorry, I saw some things talking about them, and what I saw was cringe, so please don't make videos on them once again. But sometimes when you are in the center of the political spectrum, it's pretty nuanced. You agree with some takes from the right and some from the left. You probably don't agree with the most extreme ones from both sides. At least this is where I see myself at. And also modern art, it's weird. It's just like Embrace of Shadows claiming horror for the left. This dude is claiming modern art for the left and saying, yeah, the rest is not really, it's all right wing if you don't like it, which is weird. And, well, let's get on. Let's see what he has to say otherwise, because right now I already think it's looking grim.
Is motivated and has an agenda. Charlie is just being a useful idiot for that agenda, with peace and love. I know it's not on purpose. Charlie doesn't watch PragerU for his art analysis content. He probably didn't even get the talking points from them, but they're still saying the same thing. Charlie's just an average guy with an average brain in his head. Florida average, but average. But it's uncanny how similar normal average guy language can be to politically motivated propaganda. Content that we all know is dishonest. Listen, it's nothing personal.
Oh god. Embrace of Shadows video, which was labeled by Shuan at the War Normal Guys, was part 2. This is the first one, but because this is really multiple months old. God, what is the issue with those people and hating normal guys? Like, yes, sorry that some people have both side of ways kind of thinking. Sorry that we don't all are team players like you, little goblin. Sorry. Sometimes I insult people as little goblins because this is something I'm allowed to do without violating TOS. But okay, I give him that. There's also something I don't like from the rather conservative side. Maybe some of you have seen those profiles on Twitter with all statues as their profile pictures, being like, here's the old traditional beautiful art and here's the new garbage. And I think they would have so much, like, they're not like Charlie who do reactions to modern art. No, they dedicate probably their channels to cry about modern art or modern architecture. Why not instead highlight um, artists who do still this traditional stuff today? You could do so much. Okay, I probably don't think that his Twitter accounts could do so much, but we could really profit. Like people who do this still do traditional art. They would really profit if people try to, instead of bashing modern art, showcase their art, which is inspired by traditional art. Why don't do this?
Nothing against Charlie. I've met him before. He's very nice. I just don't know why he's like this. Okay, first things first. Why is Modern Art So Bad by PragerU from 8 years ago? You know, like a painting. We're laying down the foundation of what I'm going to be talking about. And since this video is made to target fatherless teenagers, Robert Florczak is here to help us all think.
From Leonardo to Rembrandt to Bierstadt, produced works that inspired, uplifted, and deepened us. And they did this by demanding of themselves the highest standards of excellence, improving upon the work of each previous generation of masters, and continuing to aspire to the highest quality attainable.
Conservatives are so artistically and creatively bankrupt that their understanding of art hits a hard limit at, if it's not pretty, I don't want to see it. This old stuff, it's pretty, and it took a long time, so that means it's better.
To be fair, it's not pretty. I don't want to see it. Kind of summarizes those statue profile pictures I talked about on Twitter.
They pretend like they don't think exactly like that, but they do.
But something happened on the way to the 20th century. The profound, the inspiring, and the beautiful were replaced by the new, the different, and the ugly.
Nah, new art style's ugly. I mean, that's mad. Not only is that completely subjective, but the other two are synonyms in this context. Robert, what are we doing? But also, he's talking about impressionism. Ugly? Yeah, ugly? There's a reason they aren't using any actual example.
Did he say impressionism is ugly right now? Or is he spoiling? Okay, that's gonna see. But the pictures he showed in the background were actually pretty. Like, I don't see any issues with those. They still look pretty. They may not be hyper realistic, but you can still see what it's supposed to be. It still has its own beauty, in my opinion, and it's not really looking like complete weirdly splatters on the wall, which is people usually think about when they talk about modern art.
Today, the silly, the pointless, and the purely offensive are held up as the best of modern art.
I guess this last one is supposed to be Warhol, I guess. People
I actually like the Marilyn Monroe Warhol painting. I had a smaller version as a poster of this in my dorm at business college. Uh, but I think it's just supposed to be a reference because I don't see how purely offensive and this art piece goes along. I think it's just maybe a reference for the people like, ooh, oh, I know it.
typically like those. They can't use real examples because people relate and connect to modern art. But in order to manipulate the viewer more efficiently, they have to use blank straw men to apply all their talking points to. You're telling me you can't think of one example. The only examples that they do use in this video are of like extremely graphic modern art. Like bad example. That's a bad example. You're talking about like Warhol, and then you're talking about like the pissing woman statue. I don't know if those are exactly comparable.
Michelangelo carved his David out of a rock. The Los Angeles
As I said, it was probably just a reference for to people be like, ooh, I'm smart, I get the reference. And not really supposed to mean that Warhol sucks. At least I hope so.
County Museum of Art just offers us a rock. A rock. All 340 tons of it. That's how far standards have fallen.
Again, more deceptive language, more lying by omission. We all know Michelangelo and his classic rock, but weird that he left the artist out of the second one, right? That's just the LA County Museum of Arts' rock. It's actually called Levitated Mass, if you even care. It's by Michael Heiser. I've seen it in person, and it's really cool. What Robert Florczak leaves out of this video is the actual experience of this sculpture. It's not just a rock that you look at, like other sculptures. It's a sculpture that you walk under, standing directly beneath tens of thousands of pounds of rock, older than anything around it, suspended just enough by these small brackets. That is art. It's easy
To be honest, for me, it's not art because, come on. It's of course it's physics. The interesting fact behind it is supposed to be like, look at those little things holding up to 340 tons, and yeah, it can maybe be interesting for to walking under it for less than 10 seconds, which is kind of sad. And I don't really wanna put a picture of this up on my wall. There was more interesting stuff with some aquariums which are by the ocean offer like something like a little tunnel where you literally walk under the ocean and you can see the sea life like it's going on around you. It is way more interesting for me than this. And to be honest, there are bridges that I think the bridge near my house is more interesting than this to walk under it. It can also crush me if it breaks. Plus, I don't really think it's art because I don't think the artist himself put this thing up there. I think he just found a random boulder and it was put up there with machines. Like, what did he do? Did he carve this thing out of a mountain or something? What did the artist do? He just picked a boulder and it was put up there. And he used simple physics. Come on.
dismiss the sculpture when you've never seen it in person. Most physical art, especially.
And we actually get back to Stonehenge where I said, oh, it's just some rocks piled on upon each other. Like, what does this thing offer? What does it offer? In centuries, maybe even millennia, what will people think when about our culture when they see this, if it lasts this long? What do people think? Like, that we are lazy bums who had nothing better to offer to society? God, what would they think about our culture when they look at this?
Sculpture was never meant to be looked at on a fucking screen. It's like watching the theater bootleg recording of half of a movie. You didn't really see it, did you? Is Levitating Mass everyone's favorite sculpture? No, it's not even mine. But if someone told me their favorite statue was Michelangelo's David, then it probably means that they don't really know about any other ones.
Love how he just looks down on people who just appreciate Michelangelo's David. Yes, it's mainstream. Yes, appreciate other statues way more. Like there's okay, it's something that it's a bit emotionally connected. There's something in the town in Ukraine I was born at. There's like a bow where you walk under. I don't personally like the style, but I like the idea behind it and what people use it for to this day. It's a statue of a man and a woman who in the center meet each other to for a kiss. I will maybe show it down below. My parents actually took their wedding photos under this, but I'm not gonna show wedding pictures of my parents. Apparently, a lot of couples do it, so nice.
Levitating Mass is built to stand exactly like that for thousands of years. That's longer than David's statue is going to be around, so if that's not cool.
Ooh, it's gonna be around longer. This is pretty cool. As I said previously, what is it gonna offer? Stonehenge fascinates us because you also want to know what was the purpose behind it. I doubt people will care about the purpose of this one. Plus, I think the rock itself will be around for so long. I don't know if the pillars it's on will be around for so long, but let's see. I am just kinda like he made also the point that yes, you have to experience it yourself and not just see it on the screen, which is just sad because it doesn't feel like art is like it's sad when you only have to see the art live to really appreciate it. Like sometimes you can just see it on a screen and already tell the effort, the love, and the idea behind it, and you can't really tell it here.
To you, let's see who has more statues in 3,000 years.
Whatever their intentions, the new modernists sowed the seeds of aesthetic relativism, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder mentality.
I asked the art expert here to tell us that art can be scientifically measured and is objective. It just needs
Yeah, for me, beauty is actually in the eye of the beholder. Because sometimes I'm also someone who likes art that makes me laugh. Like, I don't know, see if you this How to Train Your Dragon summarized in a shortly animated, where Toothless is doing this stupid, goofy little dance. And it brought so many people joy, which is also something that also qualifies for me as art, to be honest, because it's just so silly and goofy. And we saw it on the screen and wanted to share it with everyone we knew because it was just hilarious, being like, hey, look at this. Like, it's something I wouldn't do with splatters on the wall, except maybe when I see people buying it for millions and being to my friends like, look how stupid those people are.
to look like real life, and the more like real life it looks, the better it is. This guy has the brain of a fish.
Today, everybody loves the Impressionists.
Okay, the fish statue is kinda cute.
And as with most revolutions, the first generation or so produced work of genuine merit. Monet, Renoir, and Degas still maintained elements of disciplined design and execution.
So much like a disappointed father, Robert Florczak says that Impressionism is
Like, those pictures look pretty. I don't know. I don't think he called them really ugly, but they look, for me, look kinda more pretty than some hyper-realistic stuff.
it's all right, I guess. I'll give it a pass because it still looks like the boring paintings I like.
But with each new generation, standards declined until there were no standards. All that was left was personal expression.
I don't really have anything to say other than this is just a fake graph that means nothing. Oh, God forbid
Oh, you don't say.
art be reflective of an artist's personality and life experience, emotions. I would hate that. This sort of gives the game away for Robert. What he's telling us is that art for him is basically another way to look at pretty pictures of people in mountains, which is great. Look at all the pretty people in mountains you want. But to imply that modern art is inferior because it doesn't meet the extremely restrictive guidelines
You can also draw stuff that's not just pretty people in mountains. You can do something mystical, fantasy, some stuff of this. Like, you can draw a dude fighting a dragon and make it look hyper realistic. It's cool. Like, it doesn't have to be just stuff you see in reality. It can also be fantasy stuff. Like, I would like to see a dude fighting a dragon.
that Robert specifically and arbitrarily has. I mean, that's pretentious. So because this PragerU video is formatted like a middle school persuasive essay, this is the counter-argument paragraph. In this segment, Robert says that art can be objectively measured by looking at it.
The great art historian Jacob Rosenberg wrote that quality in art is not merely a matter of personal opinion, but to a high degree objectively traceable. But the idea of a universal standard of quality in art is now usually met with strong resistance, if not open ridicule. How can art be objectively measured, unchallenged? In responding, I simply point to the artistic results produced by universal standards compared to what is produced by relativism.
His first example is Birth of Venus, which I don't know about that one. I don't get it. Waves don't even look like that. What is
Like, even if the waves don't look hyper realistic, who cares? It's pretty, and it also has some religious thing attached to it because Venus is basically same as Aphrodite because Romans just copied Greek gods, and it just looks beautiful. It offers us something. It looks harmonic. It's pleasing. It has historical value. We see in this more when it splatters on the wall because he's acting. He wants us desperately wants to say this is just as beautiful as splatters on the wall.
this supposed to be? The Birth of Venus is a masterwork, don't get me wrong, and it is a huge painting. But it is not the piece that Robert wants to bring out when we're talking about artistic objectivity. Compositionally, a little crowded, very flat. The anatomy is stiff and dull, just like the colors, which is a product of its time, but it is still the way it is. But I, unlike Robert, can find value and appreciate art that I think is really boring and sucks. Odilon Redon painted his own version of The Birth of Venus in 1912, and while it's hard to compare because they're two completely different works, I mean, this is so much better. It's got style and flavor and emotion.
It's already here says it's hard to compare. Like, sorry for Odilon, but the original is way more interesting. Like, just see how much. Okay, I like the sky here. The sky in the background is drawn. It looks beautiful, but it's looking way more vague. The way her body is drawn is a bit less It's a bit less focused detail, so, and it's also kinda stiff, to be honest. So it's not like both of them have really lifeful posing. Like the other, it also had people around her, beautiful flowers floating. It had so much more, and it was greatly reduced. And he thinks like, yeah, I still like it. Like he's free to like it, but personally, if we have to compare the one, I see way more effort put into the other. So yeah, sorry.
It's a great piece. But unfortunately, like Robert says,
Without aesthetic standards, we have no way to determine quality or inferiority.
which is the same as saying, I'm a little baby, and I need people to tell me if art is good or not. Inferiority is an interesting
You basically treat your audience like this because you try to explain to them why a fucking boulder is art.
choice of words as well, because that implies that the only purpose of aesthetic standards would be to gatekeep art. If it's not good enough for Robert, it's not good enough for the galleries.
Here's a test I give my graduate students, all talented and well-educated. Please analyze this Jackson Pollock painting and explain why it is good.
Explain why this Pollock painting is good? If I was an art student in grad school and Robert Florczak brought out this fucking shit-stained toilet paper or whatever this is and told me to tell him why it's good, dude, just ask for a college refund at that point. A college refund? They do that.
It is only after they give very eloquent answers that I inform them that the painting is actually a close-up of my studio apron. I don't blame them.
I like how he gives them he already tells them it's a Pollock painting, like he's the one who's educating them. Of course they believe it. Then he says, say why it's good. So of course they try to come up with something that makes it good. And then he's like, ha, gotcha. Which is just sad. It feels like he tries to make his own students kinda agree with him, which is a little bit pathetic, to be honest.
I would probably have done the same, since it's nearly impossible to differentiate between the two.
No, yeah, it is possible to differentiate between the two. You just have to use
Okay, you've put three things on here, but the issue is also, I'm pretty sure he picked the paintings which look the least like what he showed. Like, those have a lot of black and white going on in there, especially those who used exclusively black. Like, they are interesting, but I also don't really like them. The one looks like he just put a brush and started throwing strokes, even though the one on the down left kind of looks vaguely like people dancing, but maybe it's just me feeling again like I'm one of those psychology sittings where I'm asked, what do you see in this? And the other just looks boring. It looks like I painted my dog black and told him to roll around on a canvas.
use your eyes. Robert Florczak wants to flatter himself in saying that he accidentally creates Pollock pieces all the time. Oh no, just a little Pollock on my apron. But if you know even
I don't think he said it. I just think he wanted his students to agree with him.
a little bit about Pollock, then you would know that this looks nothing like it. I'll talk more about Pollock later, though.
And who will determine quality is another challenge I'm given. If we are to be intellectually honest, we all know of situations where professional expertise is acknowledged and depended upon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Robert Florczak wants to be the guy who determines quality. Or maybe his son, Philly Florczak.
Take figure skating in the Olympics, where artistic excellence is judged by experts in the field. Surely we would flinch at the contestant who indiscriminately threw himself across the ice and demanded that his routine be accepted as being as worthy of value as that of the most disciplined skater.
Figure skating is a complete non sequitur, and funny that he even tried. If we have to use examples that aren't real to prove points about real stuff, maybe we should reevaluate a little. If you're wondering, Robert Florczak does not bring up a single actual example of modern art for the rest of the video, just a bunch of poop-related stuff that he made up. Robert does have a solution for you, though, if you're really frustrated about the modern art problem. His call to action paragraph at the end tells you to patronize the right kind of art galleries and buy the right kind of artwork at the
To be honest, it would actually be interesting to see some art professional on a conservative platform talking about poop.
galleries.
By the art we patronize at museums or purchase at galleries, we can make our opinions not only known but felt. An art gallery, after all, is a business like any other.
What won't sell won't get made. That is, like, not even how the world works. Robert ends the video with a quick jab at Robert Rauschenberg's 3-panel white painting.
Let's celebrate what we know is good and ignore what we know is not. By the way, the white background you see behind me is not simply a white graphic backdrop. It is a pure white painting by noted artist Robert Rauschenberg.
He doesn't really say anything about it other than, can you believe it's white? Yeah, no, I see it, Robert. This isn't a blank canvas, as many conservatives will lead you to believe. This is actually a canvas painted perfectly white. 3 of them. Painted so meticulously that you can't even see the brushstrokes, which on its own is impressive. There are multiple versions of the Rauschenberg white paintings, but the 3-panel one is
Okay, it's actually kind of interesting that he really went out of his way to make the brush strokes completely not visible, but then it kind of loses speciality when there are multiple of those, when he constantly did those. It kind of loses the specialty, in my opinion. And yeah, sorry, people will think it's boring because all they see is a white canvas. And if they don't know how it was made, they just see a white canvas and don't really care.
Definitely my favorite. And they're all really big too, much bigger than what Robert suggests in his video. I feel like any artist who's ever painted before should be impressed by these. If you've ever seen them in person, they're pristine. And that's not even
And I'll be honest, I don't really care about how big or small a painting is. Like, how do people say size doesn't matter?
talking about like any like meaning or symbolism. That's just technically impressive. Not liking art like this is a choice, and it's a choice that people should be able to make with all of the context available. Robert is presenting these pieces and robbing the context from you while pretending to inform. 6 months ago, PragerU posted another certified Florksack classic. Why is classical art so good? In it, he claims that art history has been muddled by the humanities and social sciences, and that social significance in political messaging in art was only ever added by academics, not artists.
Art is a matter of personal taste. There's no such thing as great art or bad art. Where do these assumptions come from? For the most part, they are the result of art histories written and taught over the last century, not by artists, but by those in the humanities and social sciences. Not having an artist's point of view or experience, let alone artistic talent, these authors and teachers have therefore framed art in the only language they understand, meaning and social significance.
Artists don't think like that at all. They only care about making it look real.
When a visual medium becomes more about what it means and less about its pure visual experience, it might succeed as, say, journalism or social
Like, I don't know if it was really sold or something. I don't know how significant this special thing is as an example, but yeah, I wouldn't call it art. I would call it just someone picking up random stuff and putting it on the ground.
commentary, but it has failed as art.
God, glad to see that Robert is still just as dumb 8 years later.
In a great oil painting by the 17th century Dutch master Vermeer, the quality is there in the controlled balance of its composition, the harmony of its color, the masterful hand-eye coordination of its brushwork.
So many masterpieces were only ever made because they were commissioned. Like, that's how the great artists survived. That was their thing. It's not like the Sistine Chapel happened because Michelangelo was bored after all the pizza he was eating. Michelangelo. But regardless, the constant masterpiece comparisons never stop with fake art critiques like this. Robert claims that art is a visual medium and how it looks matters more than anything else.
The great artists of the past didn't care one whit about reflecting their times. They cared primarily about creating art that looked good. Art, by definition, is a visual medium. Therefore, its meaning and ability to make you think are secondary to how it looks.
That's really stupid. Because art is a visual medium, it can convey things that are indirect through a visual format, right? Is that? I feel
Yeah, but as I said previously, even if they don't want it to, it ends up being a reflection of the time. Like these pictures and like these paintings of royalty. It kind of shows what were the beauty standards, what was valued back then. It was shown really what was considered valuable in the society. Then there was a lot of art praising Christ and religion, which also shows us how much people back then really cared about religion compared to today. I'm an atheist personally, so I don't care, but hope you get the drill.
that makes more sense than whatever the fuck he just said. Like a visual metaphor almost, you know? It's like saying words can't mean other things other than just what the word says. But also to make a broader point, art isn't a medium. Painting is, drawing is, charcoal is. Those are visual media, but art is not a medium. Art is much more broad than that. But this guy doesn't really care about that stuff because he's stupid. That's the summary of this video, basically. I mean, that's the synopsis of the video. Robert doesn't know the difference between painting and art, so he keeps saying art when he means painting, and he's still wrong. Robert does clarify he's not talking about realism. He's just saying it has to look good.
Great art need not
Artist about painting wasn't sculpture, wasn't Michelangelo's David, which is a sculpture, praised in the video you showed before?
even look realistic to be great. It's no wonder that many people believe the myth that photography put an end to classical art.
Wow, he now said that it doesn't have to be realistic to look great. Wonderful.
Given that they assume that looking photographic was the purpose of a painting. But that was never the goal of the classical artist. Quality of execution was.
Whatever that means. Robbie has to like you.
You might be thoroughly impressed with the work of a cutting-edge artist with its impressive theory, but you have no way of knowing if you're being taken for a sucker.
You have no way of knowing you're being taken for a sucker? I usually don't go to museums trying to figure out if I'm about to be tricked or not. But maybe that's more of Robert's personal insecurity.
Unlike the inspirational work of the past, much of today's art exposes how coarse and vulgar a society we've become.
Much unlike 14
To be fair, I kind of get the taken for a sucker point because sometimes I have the feeling like someone puts something sloppy together, then added like some deep meaning to it, like this Reddit thing, like I'm 14 and this is deep stuff, and then said this makes it art. Like, so I don't know if it was really effort or something meaningful behind it, or if someone just made up a story.
1800s Europe, a very clean and civilized time. Robert Florksack is an interesting case. His ignorant takes on art are almost palpable in his own work. While technically impressive most of the time, some of them are just fucking insane. Robert, what's going on here? But his work is clearly restricted, uninspired, it's the same subjects.
Is this Anakin Skywalker dancing with some random chick while Okay. Like, it is pretty, but it's something I see a lot on Twitter. I constantly see artists posting this, also stuff like this. But I would just say his art is not really that I would think it's standing out. That's my opinion. It looks nice. He really puts effort into it. I personally wouldn't put it on my wall, but okay.
Over and over again. White people hanging out outside. All right, man. Even made the Egyptians white. Interesting. Robert has clearly focused all his artistic energy into making as realistic of renderings as possible, which can be artistic. But you don't need to be painting photorealism to be an artist. And if you do focus on it, you should probably study some other stuff too. Oh, by the way, weird fact about Robert, he also composed the music for Roar, the Tippi Hedren movie where they just led a bunch of lions around and filmed it. That's just a fun fact about Robert Florczak. That's a Florczak fact for you. This guy knows art.
Roar.
All right, no more Robert. Charlie time. For those of you who don't know who
Finally!
he is just a YouTuber. He's like Markiplier if Markiplier played Fortnite instead of Five Nights. I do want to be as charitable as possible. These videos are from streams, so it's not like these are written and produced like Robert Florczak's are. It's just some dude in his little house that he lives in. In the first video, Art Makes No Sense, Charlie is watching a video by Solar Sands about Thomas Kincaid. But during the entire lead up to the intro, he won't stop assuming it's either Jackson Pollock or Damien Hirst.
These paintings make my corneas hurt. I'm ashamed that this
Damien
artist
Hirst.
lived in my former hometown. The George
This is
W.
Damien Hirst.
Bush of art. Gee, these paintings must be pretty bad then.
It's Damien
huh?
Hirst,
What are
isn't
they,
it?
pictures of babies?
Come on, he's grinning. I think it's kinda. I think it's kinda. He's doing it to entertain the audience. Maybe it's just me, but okay. To be honest, I also like. I also think it's funny when some YouTubers have this hate boner for something completely insignificant or some random person they don't even know. It's hilarious if it's not really straight up bullying, to be honest.
Eating each other alive?
Charlie's already mad about modern art, and this video isn't even about modern art. It's about tacky, wacky jigsaw puzzle art made by an evangelical alcoholic con man.
These are the kinds of paintings
What?
those quotes are referring to.
Okay, they kind of looked like those Christmas cards I gave to my grandparents where you open a door each day and there's some little other picture behind it. Because Grandpa doesn't really like stuff he kind of puts out and puts it somewhere. He just likes something that's short for a short while. And my grandma has dementia and those kind of little paintings bring her a lot of joy, which is super cute.
Artists
By the
suck.
late artist Thomas Kincaid.
God damn it.
He's so mad about paintings that aren't even in the video, he's getting distracted.
I hate Thomas Kincaid with every fiber of my being. Our long
Channel that
national
energy to
nightmare
someone
is
that
over.
deserves it,
There's
like
nothing
Damien
wrong
Hirst.
with
I don't know why more people don't hate people like Damien Hirst and Jackson Pollock. Their work is the most awful dog shit ever.
And when someone points out in the chat that all art is subjective, he says this.
It is estimated his business brought in $100 million in revenue annually.
Art is
Thomas
always
Kincaid
subjective?
was
Yeah,
wildly
until it comes to
successful.
Damien Hirst or
As
Jackson
easy as
Pollock, then it is
would be to
objectively
dismiss
dog
all
shit.
this hatred-
Which, I'm not the biggest Hirsch head in the world, but Pollock? Really? The three artists
Like, come on, he was joking, you lunatic.
that were bouncing around in the beginning of this video could not have less in common. Charlie says that most modern
And yes, Solvit, I kind of paused myself before making insults. I don't wanna break TOS so early. I will wait till I have enough people watching me to laugh at it when I do it.
artists can't paint like a face or anything like that.
I guarantee you, Damien Hirst, Jackson Pollock, all of like your most famous artists, like more modern artists, I guess Jackson Pollock doesn't fit into that. I guarantee they couldn't draw a single person's face. They couldn't paint a single thing that looks like anything.
This is a challenging critique. He then immediately defends Bob Ross, who rarely ever painted faces because those are hard to paint.
Yeah, I remember Bob Ross was shit upon by most like fart-sniffing artists back in the day. Anything that looks like it has any form or shape to it, or anything that looks like it took time and effort, is very frowned upon in the community.
I don't think the level of realistic face you can paint determines your value as an artist. Robert Florczak paints faces all the time. They suck. That doesn't make his work any less bland. Charlie gets really frustrated at the definition of the word kitsch because he thinks it's pretentious.
Kitsch is, unlike art, a utilitarian object lacking all critical distance between object and observer. It
God, these
offers
people are so
instantaneous
fucking
emotional
pretentious, it hurts.
gratification
He doesn't really elaborate, but I'm going to assume that he's saying that it's pretentious to seek meaning in art that looks passable enough.
Man's looking for a fucking intricate view of the world that challenges thought process with a fucking jigsaw puzzle.
Because they are more inventive.
Like, it doesn't need to mean anything, so why are you mad that it doesn't? Especially when modern art is just baby doo-doo doodles and crayon. Thomas Kincaid, Robert Florczak, it doesn't matter. Uninspired art is uninspired art. What does Thomas Kincaid paint? Cottages? God? In the form of, like, light behind a cottage? Just like with Robert's little apron trick earlier, Pollock's work is often extremely misrepresented. He painted what hell looks like. This is like the real hell.
It's just abstract dog shit that even a child could make.
Okay, someone with a demon persona, I kind of want to know what he thinks hell looks like.
Yeah, if a child had the same mental illness and chronic addiction and somehow got a hold of one of the giant canvases he would nail on the ground, spent hours upon hours splattering paint to cover the entire thing, maybe Charlie's point about kids being able to do the same thing as Pollock would make a little more sense. Love him or hate him, he was really painting on the floor. You don't have to like Pollock's work. You can hate Lucifer, my favorite one. You can hate it.
Is this supposed to, is Lucifer, is this supposed to be what hell looks like? If this is his opinion of hell, I'm personally insulted. And I should stop slamming my table. God, I'm personally insulted by it. And wow, he's doing it on the floor. Who cares? It's still splattering on the floor.
But if your reasons for hating it are, it doesn't really look like anything. Yeah, no, I know. That's like the point. That's not really about that. Look how much paint is layered on this fucking thing. It's beautiful. What my mind looks like in my head. I had to take a hot dog break. Anyway, back to Charlie. He has this idea on stream to create a fake alias and sell really shitty art on purpose.
I thought it would be a really interesting idea if I did like some dog shitty Damien Hirst, Jackson Pollock style art under a pseudonym, and then just had like a really wealthy person I know buy it for an absurd amount and I just give the money back, obviously, but making headlines.
Which a lot of people have already done. PragerU actually did a really, really lazy version. And we're gonna watch that now. Don't blame me, blame Charlie. I didn't want to watch any more of these. Why modern art is so bad with Will Witt. Oh, Will Witt moment. Classic Will Witt, the intern from PragerU that looks like he's got nothing
You should see, we don't even see Charlie agreeing with what is done in this video.
going on in his head. He, Dennis, a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, made a bunch of paintings, and he tried to get people to look at them on the street. Will is trying to trick people in public. But the first thing you will notice about all of these paintings is that they all look like ass. Oh, I can make that? Oh yeah, can you? This is what you made. Every time someone says modern art is like lazy and anyone can do it, I think back to these paintings. The video very quickly derails, and it becomes less about trying to compare them.
To be honest, I think the website where you have to guess if what was done by a monkey or professional artists, which is shown and sold at galleries, I think this is way more interesting than this. I wish the website was still available so I could share it with you. Sorry.
Their art to modern art, and instead about trying to make people look stupid for commenting on it.
What do you see in this one here?
A dagger at your back, apparently. It looks like a long sword dripping down the side.
So this kind of represents like Japanese masculinity, kind of like how these shapes are kind of like, this is the Japanese influence, and then it's all kind of all over the place.
Will Witt, more like fucking wet noodle, couldn't even come up with what the paintings are supposed to fake mean. He had all the time he needed to figure it out, and he couldn't figure it out. He just didn't come up with anything. Will tries to convince these poor hostages that there should be some kind of like artistic standard, and none of them are really buying it.
Do you think there are standards to art?
No, I think that it's just expressing yourself, and everybody's expression is valid. I think.
Come on, you ask a woman with little kids if art should have standards? Oh, come on, we all did terrible, ugly things that our parents pretended looks good simply because it really has an emotional connection for them. Of course, he's not gonna saying something it looks like a child did. It looks like shit when her children are there.
Everybody has their own personal standards, right?
But do you think there's like a higher standard of like what art should be or what things should look like, you know, in more sense?
No, not at all.
And then he does the big reveal. Oh, guess what? Kids made these.
If I told you that these were done by children, what would you think?
I believe you.
Believe it?
Yes.
They were.
Even though everyone already kind of knew. If I made this video and it was so objectively embarrassing that I already had to edit it down to like 3 minutes and it was still this cringe, I would just not post it, Will. I just wouldn't post it. The comments in this video are really funny because they're so clearly biased against modern art that they're clinging on to anything they can to make their point. Does it make you feel any kind of way? Confused? Give that kid a medal. I'm a classically trained realist artist. If you guys only knew how hard it was to learn the skill of the masters because of these people. Oh. It may or may not surprise you to know that the realist classical ateliers and academies are not eligible for accreditation and therefore promising students cannot receive loans or grants, yet at a modern art school you get a free ride for edgy period blood paintings you did your senior year of high school. Again, we never talk about like real examples. It's just like gross shit.
Okay, I gotta say that if the kid really replied to how does it make you feel confused, it's funny.
That they make up. That never happened. As an artist, I think modern art sucks.
Like the period blood art. I know actually one example was a woman who I think she lost even her Instagram over it. She was doing art by posting pictures of her bloodstained toilet, her bloodstained bed sheets, just stuff that was covered in period blood by her not wearing a tampon or something else, which is kind of silly. That people consider that high art and something like a symbol against period shaming. Sorry, but I think it's gross.
I have standards. Cutting to a little later on in Charlie's video, he's insulted by an art critic's assessment of Kincaid's work.
We think it's stupid art for stupid people.
How can you, like, how do you read this and not just get insulted? Like, reading pretentious garbage like this is so upsetting to me.
The quote they used was stupid art for stupid people, which is definitely harsh, but I think Kincaid definitely deserves it. He made simplistic, digestible, accessible hotel art because he knew that hotels and grandmas had to put something on their wall. He churned out hundreds and hundreds of paintings and recreations just to make money. But isn't that what people hate about modern artists? They just churn out whatever. They just throw it on the canvas and they sell it for all that money. What do you think this asshole was doing? They hate that Picasso can churn out 100 canvases a day. Abstract art is so much more challenging to conceptualize and actually execute. Unlike a tree that Thomas Kincaid painted that he meant to be printed 10,000 times. Despite this though, Charlie is still mad that people pay millions of dollars for Jackson Pollock paintings.
And then of course this, we think it's stupid art for stupid people, yet people paying millions for Jackson Pollock's absolute trash.
The like 4 people that have ever been able to do that. None of which were really worth anything until after he was dead. Unlike Kincaid, Pollock made Lucifer for a friend.
It's still kinda goofy that people paid so much for literally just splatters on the wall.
and gave it to him as a gift. And now it's on display at Stanford University. Kincaid's work, on the other hand, is meant to be purchased. A lot of times, actually. Which alone drains his work of a lot of soul and external meaning. Not that Santa's Night Before Christmas is all that engaging of a painting anyway. Charlie stops watching this video to
Oh god, this was actually supposed to be for Christmas. Oh god. It was probably one of the cards I gave to my grandparents. And yeah, I think if it's strictly drawn for commercial use, it doesn't make it less pretty. Like I commissioned a lot of artists on Twitter, dozens, and I think I have over 70 commissions in my commission folder right now. And those stuff looks beautiful, and I was willing to pay for it. And of course, the artists don't do it for free. Okay, some gifted me free art. Still, shout out to you guys. Thank you so much.
start looking up modern art examples at SF MoMA.
I am curious, what gets seen in high-class museums now? I'm pretty sure all of it is that super trash thing like a banana taped to a wall or like Banksy's balloon picture, stuff like that. Let me see. Well, I mean, even on just their homepage, like their art collection here is kind of ass.
I think it's good to show kids stuff like this. I mean, yeah, looking at like a picture of
Why is it good? Children do stuff like this themselves with fucking finger paintings. It's nothing special. Children do it themselves. Okay, sure, you can show a child this and say, look, you do the same as real artists. Maybe this helps them, but otherwise I don't think children really take something away from this. As I said, I remember with my parents going to those historical museums especially, or we visited ruins of castles. In Germany there's still a lot of those left. And there were recreations of how those rooms looked like. And this is something I really didn't forget as a child because it fascinated me. I would probably forget those splatters on the wall.
70% of this 3-panel painting, maybe not my favorite. But also, SF MoMA is full of tacky lame shit anyway. It is a 7-story museum. It has everything for everyone. That's kind of their thing. If you get a chance to go, you really should. It's a great experience, and it helped change my mind a lot about modern art. I think it would even change someone like Charlie's mind if he actually gave it a fair shot. But anyway, he moves on to some random website called contemporaryart.com, that instead of actually engaging with it or talking about what he does or doesn't like about it, he just dances around it and uses it as an example to say that all modern art is bad.
You gotta really stop and digest this one, actually. There's a lot going on here.
It's just a little reductive, I think.
Yeah, this pretty much sums up most art exhibits, I imagine.
What does that mean?
Okay, I really hope he doesn't want to defend it because this looks ugly as shit.
It's not. And listen, I don't even hate these paintings. Again, if I saw what they actually look like, it'd be a lot easier to have an opinion on it. And I think that's why Charlie doesn't even have an opinion on it. He's just using them to criticize all of modern art.
Bruh, you have to see it for yourself to really appreciate it. Yeah, sorry, I'm not gonna travel to the US to see something like this.
He mentioned selling the paintings for 50 grand.
Here's some canvases that there's like some scribbles on it somewhere in there. I don't know, just hang it up, put like 50 grand on it. Someone's gonna buy it.
And we'll talk more about how modern art critics are constantly complaining about how much art costs when it's literally just a money laundering tool by the 1%. And it has nothing to do with the actual art itself. But where did 50 grand come from? He just made that up. There is no record that this piece has ever been sold or ever had any offers on it. For all I know, every piece Charlie looked at didn't make any money. I mean, the next exhibit is just a bunch of boxes in a synagogue. Like, that is explicitly something to experience, not something to own. And I think that's an even better version of art. The only thing, though, is...
Wait, a lot of boxes are something to experience. I know some people who work at storage units and I don't think they consider this stuff an experience.
Charlie never actually looked at what it was. He just saw a picture of boxes and didn't investigate any further. He's just looking at a picture of it. I don't think he knows what the whole thing
Yeah, the experience for you when you look at it is how is it working like in a storage unit.
is. And so he starts joking about what the piece could possibly be about, what crazy meaning that is going to be attributed to it.
Exquisite. Like, you have to ask yourself, what's in those boxes? Are we purchasing too much? It's a display of excess. And you see how the boxes aren't all lined up the same? There's a pattern to it. There's order in the chaos. And then you also have to wonder who packed these boxes. Is it Amazon workers that are miserable and you can feel the hate? Is it someone like maybe a home business with a family that packed it? There's just so many things you have to ask yourself. This really is a challenging piece.
And then he doesn't look up what it actually means. And he also doesn't
Bruh, he just doing it for fun. He's like, look at this simplistic stuff. I'm pretty sure there's some big meaning put behind it to make it significant. Come on, it's a joke.
understand even what he's looking at, so none of the jokes really land, because Charlie isn't talking about what's in front of him. He's talking about what he thinks is in front of him. Charlie, you're making a fool out of yourself. There's so many more boxes than that. I think there are so many different ways to interpret this installation, and I think writing it off is a little aggressive. What, are you scared? Too many boxes? I mean, the fact that the boxes are filling a synagogue is significant. Charlie didn't even know that, even though it was written there. But Charlie was still so mad at the picture, he didn't even, seek out what it was. That's not even critique. That's just refusing to engage with art. Charlie's getting mad at this art because he doesn't understand it. And that's not even a neg on Charlie. He admits that he doesn't understand it. He doesn't get it, and he's not trying to. So no wonder you're frustrated. You have to try a little bit. In the comments of all these videos,
Like, he doesn't get it, he doesn't try to. Yeah, because some people, like when they see this or splatters on the wall, they don't want to get it because for them it looks insignificant and boring.
videos, you see the same like NPC talking points, stuff like if you have to explain why art is good, plenty of classical art still needs an explanation to make sense. It's called context. You can appreciate the aesthetics of art without context, but you're not going to understand the piece without it. Starry Night takes on an entirely different meaning when you realize that it was painted from an asylum. That was the view that Van Gogh had through his window. Learning about art can be really fun.
I'll be honest, for me, I like the painting. It has something special to it, like the way the sky is drawn and everything. And I, for me, it changes nothing to know that he drew it from an asylum window. It just for me it was like right from the start that he draws something that he saw a lot when he looked out of his window. I don't care if it was in an asylum or not. I just thought this is a landscape he often got to see and he chose to draw it in his own way.
You care. And it can deepen your appreciation for art in general. Art is a Scam is the next video we're watching. It starts out and Charlie's watching this video with like 400 views from an art gallery in Portland. And the first thing it shows are these acrylic half circles glued to the wall. Charlie is just a little too excited about hating on this one and misses the point of it completely, which is a bummer because this installation is actually really cool.
It's beautiful. I'm starting to tear. Oh. Wow. This is incredible. I need to pay a visit to this.
Each disc is color-coded, and that color matches a frequency that the app the artist developed translates into a sound. This isn't a visual exhibit, it's an audio exhibit. So yeah, when you're bullshitting and not paying attention, it does look like you're pointing your phone at a stupid orb, but I don't know. That's
Okay, it's kinda cooler. This is a kinda cool idea. Yeah, Charlie L. I gotta give Charlie the L here, sorry. It's kinda cool idea.
like the only time I've ever seen something like that. Is that not cool? And then he makes fun of this big room installation, which, yeah, not my favorite. The video has fucking 400 views. What do you expect? This isn't Da Vinci over here. This artist's name is actually Jordan Rathis, and she has done a few of these open room exhibitions of her
Wait. This is the same stuff I see at IKEA.
work, most of it being art films. Not my thing, but when I looked through her website, she did an art installation on a steamboat, like an old steamboat. That's awesome. I wish there were more pictures of it, but this is the only one. Listen, I don't have to be completely impressed by something to give it credit for creativity and originality, okay? I want to make it clear that this isn't Charlie's fault at all, but holy shit, if you go to the comments of this video, it's like nauseating. Yes, I intend to simply spit on a canvas and sell it. Truly what a wonder modern art is. Again, not a thing at all, actually. Humans, we are the most intelligent species on Earth. Also humans. The dude who makes the resin discs is punching the air after he figured out about QR code. Yeah, completely misinterpreting the entire video. Not even paying attention in Charlie's stream, goes to the video, leaves a comment on the original video without watching it, still getting it wrong. You didn't pay attention. That's so embarrassing for you. Again, it's not Charlie's fault. He has a really big audience and they're very unfunny. So Charlie moves on, looking for a video defending Jackson Pollock, and then gets mad at the title of the video.
Oh, I already hate the way this. I already fucking hate the title. How to understand a Jackson Pollock painting, as if you're too fucking stupid to get it.
But you don't understand it, though. Is that not your problem? You don't get it. The video he's watching is really ass, though I can't blame him for clowning on it.
Making a painting which is about the substance of paint itself, the fact that paint is liquid. And when we see paint on canvas, normally that's hidden. You know, paint is made to resemble something else, whether it's a sky or a field or flesh. But what Pollock does is just present us with paint as paint.
But again, he just keeps focusing on selling the art. That's not what this is about.
He was the first person to do it.
You know what else presents paint as paint? The fucking can that the paint comes in. That's actually kind of smart. Has anyone done that? If you just take like paint cans? Like if I put paint cans on like a table at an art gallery, could I sell that?
The video keeps going and Charlie keeps saying,
Come on, he's joking. He is fucking joking, like he's saying, ooh, when I do this, would people actually pay for it? It's just a joke on behalf of the people who pay for stuff like splatters on a wall.
that it wouldn't be that hard to make a Jackson Pollock painting.
None of them have the energy, the spontaneity, and the sheer skill in handling paint that he has.
Oh, very skillful.
You read the paint.
Does he see how much paint is on this? It's covered, and it's really big. Like, especially
It's really big and covered in paint. It's really now quantity over quality over here. Like, look, he splattered so much of the paint at the wall that almost everything is covered in it. Like, look how much paint he uses. Like, come on, it doesn't make it art by the amount of paint it was put into.
it's on the ground, he had to walk around and on it. He could swing his whole arm out and still be painting on his canvas. That's unlike any other artist. Listen, maybe
Oh my god, he walked on it. God, who cares?
it's me, but knowing this like mentally ill, manic, alcoholic freak was sitting in like a barn, drunk, flinging paint everywhere in anger, gives a certain emotion to these paintings that I think is very valuable. I'll say it. This is the part that is like the anger and hatred that lives only in this man.
Oh my god, the painting really tells you everything you need to know about the man behind it. Oh, I never stopped to really think about the gestures required for such precision. Like, it looks chaotic to the untrained layman's eye, the Philistines, but when you really take a step back, you can see the laborious nature of each and every splatter.
Okay, so now Charlie is like completely misunderstanding the narrative of the video and is now implying that like they're saying that Pollock meticulously planned every stroke and every little dip and drop. The entire purpose of Jackson Pollock is to not do that. Charlie gets mad again because someone is describing Pollock's painting style by painting with gestures rather than brushstroke, you know, using his whole arm.
Okay, for me personally, it would actually be interesting if someone just had something just had an idea in their head and then randomly splattered and managed to recreate it. That would be actually interesting if someone had an idea in mind and actually just randomly splattered and managed to actually get it without really putting like a lot of dedication and control into that. Like randomly splattered and actually managed to recreate what he had in mind. This is way more interesting than someone having no idea, putting his brushes into paint and then slinging it around.
His arm, it's who he is as a person that's creating that canvas, that painting.
As opposed to someone who paints using their body as well, but actually paints something. It is still them as a person creating that art. They make this weird distinction. They look for any and all fucking absolutely asinine explanations for why anyone should care.
Even though Charlie's really mad at it, it's a distinction that characterizes his entire body of work. That is why it looks like this.
Even if I somehow put multiple fingers up my ass, sniffing them to get the fumes up there to really like delusion myself like hugely enough to find any kind of meaning in this, there's no reward in it for me. I don't get anything for it.
I don't know why he says that there's no reward for finding meaning in art. The meaning is the reward. It can change your perspective, make you feel seen, help you understand other people. You just have to be open to it. I've yet to hear a single argument other than non sequiturs and emotional language why it's not worthwhile to engage with modern art.
There's literally nothing at the end of that tunnel. The only reward is to the artist that put no effort into.
Like if there was Raph putting into it and slinging it on a wall, I don't really care about the emotion behind it. In the end, it's just splatters on a wall.
It and sold it for a lot of money to people that have been brainwashed to make them believe that it's worth that price.
Does Charlie think that the people who are attending museums are buying the art? Again, we're at this weird part where we're mad that paintings cost a...
People are attending museums, okay, they don't pay for the art, but they pay money to see this art. And then look at it and are like, gorgeous.
lot of money. The only person who needs to worry about that is the bozo buying it. It just really isn't about the money. It's just not. And also, let's be serious for a second. Modern art has money laundering happening in it, sure. But classical art is where the money's at. The most expensive painting in the world sat on a Saudi yacht for 2 years. Yeah, this little T-girl Jesus is the most expensive painting in the world from Leonardo da Vinci. It's not even finished. Hair does not...
It's drawn by Da Vinci. It has a name attached to it. Then, yes, oh, it's not even finished. Like, come on, it's Jesus. For people are often willing to pay way more if religion is attached to it. Like, I watched animation reviews and stuff, and you can't believe how many terrible animated mockbuster movies are made. Slapped Christianity onto it, and Christian parents pay for it, simply because Jesus is on it. Like, this is sadly something people pay for. And it's still way more interesting than splatters on a wall.
Look like that. Classical paintings go for way more money, are owned by way worse people if they're not already stolen.
Like, it's a classical painting, yes, but its painting is also very old. Like, it stood the test of time. Those modern paintings, they are probably all less than a century old.
From the country they belong to.
I don't think anyone's mad that Jackson Pollock trickled little dribblings of paint across a canvas, or someone submitted a canvas they bought from Michaels as art. They're mad about the price that it sells for and the people that defend it. It's never really the piece itself.
So I guess Charlie's biggest problems with modern art are the price it's sold for and the people who defend it, even though he said in the last video that no one defends modern art.
Modern art is one of the...
I think if the people defending it are like you, dude, I can understand why he's mad.
Most bafflingly outrageous things to me. And the thing is, I never see anyone defend it. I literally never see anybody online defend it that isn't also laundering money with art themselves. Like, it blows my fucking mind.
The people, whatever, art people are freaks. But I don't think he knows anyone in real life who likes modern art. I don't think he knows any gay people. And again, the price it sells for is irrelevant.
To be honest, I saw some people who defend modern art. We call those people hipsters.
Doesn't reflect on the art at all. It's not a dictation of quality. And the only people paying for it are rich freaks with more money than they need. I would much rather have the money go to a museum where they actually spend it on public education. Some nonprofit museums do college grants. It's not really a bad thing when art is sold, generally. But what I find so funny is that Charlie never actually brings up an example of art that sells for too much. He just keeps making up examples.
Like we looked at Diana earlier, which was a potted plant that was store-bought and put on a shelf. And that was the art. I'm not mad about that. I think that's fucking great. I think that's a wonderful joke. But if I heard that sold for $100,000, that would be upsetting to me.
Okay, 100K actually. If it's such a horrible problem that is so frustrating that you start the video mad about it.
Like he said, if I heard it was sold for this price, he didn't say it was sold for this price, you fucking moron. He just used it as an example, like saying, when I saw something stupid like this and find out people pay a lot of money, I would be pissed off. It's just an example.
There are no examples. I think Charlie has been misinformed about modern art. He said Jackson Pollock a bunch, but not exactly a fair example using one of the most well-known artists in America. No shit he's gonna sell for a lot. He's not even making the money. He's dead.
I don't think there's anything anyone could ever say or any explanation for any of this that would ever actually change my mind on the interpretation of empty canvas work and...
Who cares if he makes money from it because he's dead? The point is that people pay so much money for this.
splatter paintings. It is all trash.
If nothing changes Charlie's mind, that's fine. I didn't make this video for Charlie, and I doubt he'll see it. Go to a museum. Learn for yourself. Art is subjective, not in a I think this is good and I think this is bad way, but in a way that's unique to everyone. Your appreciation and your taste in art is reflective of your subjective experience, your identity, your personality. These are all factors in observing art, and I think it's far more important to experience and think for yourself rather than letting narratives dictate what you think. I'm gonna end this video by telling you about one of my favorite art pieces. It's just a fan, an electric box fan, plugged into the wall.
Oh god, it's the AIDS fan. It's the AIDS fan I saw Kristen posting.
In the museum like any other, covered in plexiglass, blowing through just a few holes at the viewer. At first glance, it's just a fan in a room, but the description reads, soon after the death of his lover, Stephen Arabino from AIDS, Los Angeles conceptual artist Boscovich discovered that Arabino's family had completely cleared out his apartment, including the artist's possessions, save for the electric box fan in this work. An entire person, existence, and relationship had been erased, like so many were during the AIDS crisis. Boscovich encased the fan in plexiglass as a kind of evidence and created cutouts to allow its circulated air to escape and be felt by the viewer, almost like an exhalation. In a sense, restoring Arabino's breath.
Let's be honest, it sounds kind of pretend. It kind of sounds like performative activism, actually, because sadly, the AIDS crisis, especially, was rampant in the LGBTQ community. It's sadly also very associated to this day. In my country, gay people aren't allowed to donate blood simply because it's assumed they might have HIV, AIDS, however you want to call it. It's sad. And of course, it's sad that he lost his partner, and really nothing except this one fan was left behind, but it doesn't make it special. Like, come on, he just put it up and called it art. It has maybe a sentimental meaning to him. Then you have people who are obsessed with showing that they are left-wing, pro-LGBTQ and everything, acting like this is masterful. Come on. My grandma died of COVID while she was working on a sweater for my 25th birthday. And the sweater is only halfway done. Does it make it art now? Does it reflect COVID and how we lost loved ones? Like, I would even feel wrong, to be honest, to show this as art, this sweater, because it really still means a lot to me.
At least as a facsimile in memoriam, Boscovich makes a tender, broken-hearted gesture towards some form of eternal life.
And with this, the video is over. Thank fucking Lord. Let's see what is the topic I'm gonna cover next. I hope that I'm done with the research on the tipster stuff to the end of the month. And, well, thank you for watching and see you in the next one. Have a nice day, or rather have one hell of a day.